It starts off like a whisper, barely audible in the hum of day-to-day life. You're in your 50s now, 51, maybe 57. The house is quieter than it used to be. The kids are grown, the job doesn't stir your blood like it once did, and the calendar seems more crowded with doctor's visits and maintenance calls than memories being made. One day, you find yourself standing at the kitchen sink with the morning light pouring in, staring out the window with your coffee gone cold, and you realize something's off. You haven't done anything new in years. You're not unhappy, but you're not alive in that full-chested, wide-eyed way you used to be. And then the thought sneaks in. Simple, absurd, powerful. What if I just bought a boat and left? If you're over 50 and feeling that pull toward the horizon, I'm here to tell you, it's not crazy. It might just be the best decision you'll ever make. Time doesn't feel the same after 50. You've passed the halfway mark, and while you're not fragile, you're aware now that your years aren't a blank check anymore. You start noticing the way people talk about time. Someday, once I retire, when the mortgage is done. But what if time isn't something to hoard? What if it's something to use? Sailing gives that back to you, not in a flashy bucket list kind of way, but in slow, soul-deep hours. Out there, everything is on your clock. You rise with the sun, sleep when you're tired, eat when you're hungry. You spend whole afternoons trimming sails and watching the horizon shift. There are no meetings, no commutes, just the wind, the water, and the quiet thrum of your own breath syncing with the rhythm of something bigger. You start to feel young in a way that has nothing to do with how fast you move. You feel curious again, engaged, present, the kind of alive that no golf course or retirement community brochure ever promised. The ocean doesn't care about credentials, resumes, or how many people called you boss. And if you're over 50, that's a blessing. Because by now, you've lived enough to let go of the masks. You've made your mistakes. You've weathered divorce, failure, success, grief. You've lost people. You've been humbled. And in that, you've become someone solid. That version of you is exactly who the sea respects. When you're 25, sailing can be about proving something. When you're 55, it's about feeling something. There's no rush to get anywhere. You're not out there to impress anybody. You're out there to connect, to nature, to the moment. Maybe to the parts of yourself that got buried under deadlines and obligations. There's an honesty in sailing that strips you down, but not in a punishing way. It reminds you that you're still learning, still capable, still here. You're not made of rubber anymore. Your knees might click on cold mornings. Your back has opinions. But sailing isn't about brute force, it's about rhythm and forethought. You don't need to manhandle sheets in a gale to feel strong. You need to think ahead, simplify your systems, and sail in a way that honors your experience. I've met men over 60 who can sail with more grace and efficiency than any 20-year-old adrenaline junkie. Why? Because they understand the boat, they feel the wind shift in their bones. They don't push because they don't need to. They prepare. Modern sailing gear helps too. Electric winches, wind vanes, autopilot, even bow thrusters if you need them. But more than any gadget, it's your mindset that matters. Sailing teaches you that strength isn't just in your body, it's in your judgment, your timing, your willingness to slow down before something breaks. And your body, once it adjusts, responds with gratitude. You move more, stretch more, feel more. And the aches, they're not reminders of age. They're reminders you're still doing something real. One of the biggest myths around sailing is that it's only for the wealthy. Truth is, the marinas are full of boats owned by retired electricians, cops, high school teachers, and second chancers. The real barrier isn't money, it's mindset. A good old Alban Vega or West Sail 32 can go around the world and cost less than a new SUV. Will you have to do work? Absolutely. But that's part of the magic. You learn every inch of your boat. You replace lines yourself, you install your own solar, you take a pride in it that no shiny new charter boat can give you. Out here, nobody cares what your boat cost. What matters is how you treat her and what you do with her. So if you got a little savings, a willingness to learn, and the guts to take a leap, you're already ahead of most. You can do this. Not someday. Now. There's a kind of pain men over 50 don't always talk about. The quiet kind. Maybe it's from a broken marriage, or a kid who doesn't call anymore. Maybe it's burnout, or the weight of being everything to everyone for too long. Maybe it's just that feeling that your best years are behind you. The ocean doesn't cure that, but it gives it space. I've seen it again and again. A man steps on a boat with slumped shoulders and a 1,000-yard stare. 2 weeks later, he's laughing with a beer in hand, barefoot on deck, talking about the stars. Something changes. Not because everything gets better, but because things get simpler. You can't lie to yourself on a boat. There's no room for it. But you also don't have to perform. You just have to show up. And somewhere between the sunrise and the swell, something heavy lifts off your chest. That's the healing. That's the thing nobody tells you. The sea doesn't fix you. It reminds you you're not broken. When you pull into a harbor at 58, sunburned and sea-tired, your shirt clinging from the heat and your hair stiff with salt, nobody's looking at your resume. Nobody asks what you did before you cast off. They're not concerned with how many people you managed, how many square feet your house was, or what kind of car you drove. What they want to know is whether your anchor's holding in this muddy bottom bay, whether you've tried the fish shack down the road that does fried conch on Thursdays, whether you've got an extra spark plug for a Yamaha 2-stroke or some spare butane canisters you're willing to trade for a cold beer. The sailing world, especially when you're past 50, isn't built around status. It's built around utility, stories, and shared struggle. You help someone with their holding tank one day, and the next, they're handing you a fresh-caught snapper because you mentioned you missed lunch. You lend a wrench. They give you a ride to the hardware store in their dinghy. Nobody's keeping score. It's just what you do. In this world, you'll meet all kinds. Solo sailors who've been wandering for decades with sun-creased faces and stories that stretch from Panama to the Marquesas. Widowers who found peace in long passages and the sound of waves on the hull. Couples on their second marriages who found each other on a mooring line in the Grenadines and now slow dance on their aft deck as the sun goes down. Retired truckers who can plot a course through shoals with more confidence than any yacht club commodore. Former nurses, software engineers, carpenters, artists. What binds them isn't where they came from. It's that they chose this life, chose to live slow, chose to pay attention, chose to measure wealth in freedom instead of figures. These aren't social media people. They're not trying to impress anyone. Half of them couldn't tell you what day of the week it is, and that's part of the charm. Conversations skip the small talk and head straight to the heart. You talk about the last storm you rode out, the best anchorage you've ever found, the worst mistake you made and what it taught you. Laughter comes easy, so does silence. There's no ladder to climb here, no competition, no networking events. Just a collection of humans who understand what it means to trade the familiar for the unpredictable, the safe for the wild. And for many men over 50, that kind of connection hits different. It's not about chasing identity. It's about feeling understood, maybe for the first time in a long time. Out here, you're not judged by your job or your clothes. You're judged by how you handle your lines, how you treat the weather, how quickly you offer help when someone's dragging anchor at 2 in the morning. This life isn't curated. It's honest, it's immediate, and it sticks. Because once you've shared a pot of coffee on a swaying deck with a stranger who knows what it's like to be alone with nothing but stars overhead, you realize something. These people aren't just passing friends, they're your kind, your tribe, your harbor. And that's something a man can carry for the rest of his life. When you're younger, legacy feels like something out of a brochure. Numbers on paper, promotions earned, a house paid off, maybe a plaque on a wall somewhere. It's measured in transactions, trophies, and titles. People ask you where you're going, how much you're worth, what your kids will inherit. It all feels very polished, very public. And, for a while, maybe that's enough. But something changes after 50. Maybe it's the funeral of a friend who worked right up until the end. Maybe it's a quiet birthday dinner where no one really says what they mean. Maybe it's a long look in the mirror one morning when you realize you've built something solid, but stopped feeling alive inside it. Legacy starts to mean something different. You begin to think less about what you'll leave behind in a bank account and more about what you'll take with you in your heart. You start wondering, not what you'll be remembered for, but what you'll remember. What did the air smell like on that trip through the Bahamas? What song was playing when you danced barefoot on deck with someone you love? What fear did you finally face? What peace did you finally earn? Sailing opens that door in a way few other things can. It strips down the distractions and puts you face to face with your life. When you're at anchor, miles from cell signal, and the only sound is the halyard pinging gently against the mast, you start to see it clearly. The stories, not the stuff, are what matter. The moments, the mess, the motion of days lived fully. Legacy becomes the laughter of your grandkids as they jump off the stern into cool morning water. It becomes the journal entries written by lantern light after a long passage. It's the song you sing to yourself during a storm just to stay calm. The quiet nod exchanged with another sailor who's just as weathered as you are. It's teaching your partner how to read the wind. It's burning toast on the alcohol stove and eating it anyway because the view is perfect. And it's not just the big moments. Sometimes it's the fact that you were willing to change it all, to learn something new, to let go of what you were supposed to be and become what you wanted to be, late in the game. That takes courage. And that, too, is part of the legacy. You might write a book or film your voyages. You might share your stories on a dock with strangers who become friends. Or maybe you just sail quietly until the end, and the legacy is in your eyes. You're calm. The way you made people feel when they sat beside you in the cockpit at sunset. It becomes about presence over possessions, impact over image, meaning over money. And if the only thing you leave behind is the memory that you chose a different life, one of peace, courage, and freedom, that's enough. That's everything. That's a hell of a legacy. So if you're wondering whether it's too late, whether 50 is too far down the road to change course, I'll tell you right now, it's not by a long shot. The sea doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't ask for youth or status. It asks for honesty, for attention, for respect. If you've got a few aches, a little fear, a head full of doubts, that's normal. But if you've also got a spark in your gut, a quiet craving for freedom, and the courage to say why not, then the ocean is ready for you. Buy the boat, take the class, quit the job, or just walk down to the dock and start asking questions. Because the life you've been waiting to live, it's not ahead of you anymore. It's here. And it starts with wind and water and one good decision. Sail on, brother, you're right on time.